So I'm sitting in the border lineup, and I'm headed to America to pick up some film from my post office box just across the border in Blaine here. This guy over here, he's wondering what the hell I'm doing with this camera. So I'm gonna put it down before I get in trouble. All right, so I'm here in Blaine, Washington, which is just across the border from Greater Vancouver. It's like a border town. Just had breakfast at a place called Big Al's. If you're ever here, it's pretty good. Corned beef hash, that's where it's at. I'm gonna do a little walk around here with the, hang on, it's in my bag here. With the X-Pro1 with the 35 f1.4. Take some pictures around the town here. It's kind of an older town. I forgot a tripod for my vlogging camera here. I'm using the XA10 today just to see how it'll do for video. I don't know. We'll see how it is. But yeah, just gonna walk around Blaine and take some shots and see what we find. Well, I was going to go somewhere fun and finish this video off, but that's not going to happen because I spilled coffee all over myself. Shout out to Woods Coffee, though. One of my favorite American coffee chains. Okay, so you get Scott in the car, like really, really old school WFLBC here. So the X-Pro1, this is the original X series interchangeable lens camera. Obviously it came after the X100. I think there was there the X10 in between? I think so, but this was the first interchangeable lens X series camera with an APS-C sensor. It's a 16 megapixel X-Trans sensor, so also the first X-Trans sensor, which was kind of a big deal at the time. It's got sort of that magical first generation X series quality to the files that it's hard to quantify. It doesn't make sense why they should look different or better than anything else. And maybe they don't, maybe it's just a personal preference, but there is something to the look of them that is just a little bit special, especially paired with the 35-1.4, which is a fantastic lens, not the fastest lens around, and especially paired with an older X series camera like the X-Pro1, it's definitely a little bit of a slug in the autofocus department, but still totally usable. I feel like today's autofocus speeds are honestly kind of ridiculous. They're so fast. Is it bad to have really fast autofocus? What am I saying? No, it's obviously better, but this is still totally usable. The one thing I will say about sort of this camera and the X100 is this hybrid viewfinder. You've got an optical viewfinder and you've got a electronic viewfinder. I never use the OVF. I only use the EVF, and it's the same with my X100. It's a really cool gimmick and it's cool to show people, but I never actually use it. The parallax correction when you autofocus and it shifts the frame lines over always really screws me up. You know what? It's fine. It works. It's cool, but it's not the same as using like a DSLR with an actual prism that is a much better optical viewfinder experience, in my opinion. If this was a true rangefinder, like it had a rangefinder patch like a Leica, then maybe it would be better. But it's very cool, but it's very much a gimmick, and the EVF is definitely the way to go if you're shooting anything semi-serious with this camera. The prices of these X-Pro1s are still very high for something that is, you know, 6 or 7 years old. Maybe it's more than that now. But yeah, I really feel like if there's a market for vintage digital cameras, this is going to be the camera that sort of starts it. Do I think that there should be a market for vintage digital cameras where, like, some of them actually appreciate in value? I don't know. I don't know how well they're going to hold up. I think you see in the vintage film camera market that the mechanical cameras generally hold their value better than cameras with a lot of electronics, because when those electronics fail, the camera's dead. There's no option to use it mechanically in most cases. But this being purely digital, I question the longevity of it. I got a really good deal on this one. I actually traded a camera in for it, and they gave me tremendous value on it at Henry's Cameras. Not sponsored, but hi Henry's, you guys are awesome. But I've enjoyed using this camera. I find myself, though, reaching for other cameras. I reach for, if I'm going to go with an older body, I reach for the X100, or I reach for my XT1 if I'm not using something newer like my XT30. This is sort of my last choice. It's cool, it looks cool, it's comfortable, it's ergonomic, it's all of the things you want in this style of a camera, but for whatever reason it just doesn't call my name when I'm opening my camera drawer to pick which camera I want to shoot with. Yeah, so if you can find one for, I don't know, under $400 US, it's probably a good deal if it's in good condition. If it's more than that, I don't know, I would go with something a little newer, because the newer stuff is generally better, faster processing, better autofocus, maybe higher resolution depending on the generation you go with, or even the XE1 over this X-Pro1, because it essentially has everything this camera has, but without this OVF. It's got some slight ergonomic changes to it as well, but you're going to get the exact same firmware and sensor and all that stuff in the XE1 that you would get in this X-Pro1 for less money, and it's got less things to go wrong, like with this hybrid viewfinder. So I'm going to go across the border with my wet shirt. It smells like coffee, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me in my car. Bye.